welcome back. And as was mentioned, this segment is a conversation with representatives of the Scouts Association of Belize. And joining us, we have Marilyn Dawson, who is the National Cub Scout Commissioner. We have Venture Scout Bernedito Chiac, and we have Executive Director Hilberto Riverol. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
So quite a lot to say congratulations about. First of all, I know that you are celebrating the 100 years of the Cub Scout movement. Let's start off with that particular achievement.
Well, in 1916, on December the 16th, it was the birthday that Cub Scouting started. So on Friday, we should have celebrated the birthday of Cub Scouting in Belize, and around the world they celebrated the birthday also, and they had a lot of activities on that day. We did it on Sunday, which was yesterday, at Alton Ha. We had a very lovely time. We did investment of Cub Scouts, and we also renewed our promise, our Cub Scout promise, on top of Alton Ha, one of the temples there. It was quite lovely, and the Cubs enjoyed it.
I could imagine. Of course, it's a great starting point because it is essentially how a lot of people get introduced into scouting. What has been the level of growth that you've been seeing with the Scouts in Belize? And we can start off with the Cub Scouts, but I know you have the other levels as well.
There has been very little growth in our program, really. Whilst our programs are still very attractive, we do not seem to be attracting enough young people to the program. We have been unable to also promote ourselves properly because of the lack of finance. That is a fact. I know everybody comes and cries about funding, but that remains one of our key problems. And we're trying to focus on that for 2017, and we're hoping that we can solve that obstacle as soon as possible.
And it's across the board that
it's
you're
across
seeing.
the board, right.
How is it that you're not attracting new persons to scouting, or is there also a challenge in retaining those that you have involved?
The retention percentage is okay. I think that it's the visibility of the scouts that is not there. Every activity that we do costs money, and it's a problem. And also, to compound that, we have the lack of commitment from adult people that want to become involved. It's always a challenge to recruit adults that want to get involved in the program. Although it's attractive, and although their parents and they want their kids to be in the program, they themselves don't want to get involved.
And that's specifically for the leader's position,
For the
right?
leader's position.
So in the Cub Scouts, for example, because that's one area that you know you need adults around, how have you been working to try to get parents or other adults, usually teachers as well, involved as leaders in the Cub Scouts?
The first thing we started off with was inviting the parents to some of the programs, to some of the activities that have been taking place throughout the entire year. So they see the interest that the Cubs they have, and they want to remain and help. That's one way, and we have the young leaders. They are along, so they learn, and later on we hope they become future leaders.
And Bernedito, that's your cue, right? A Venture Scout is pretty much the highest in the ranks in terms of your participation in scouting, right?
Yes.
So how long have you been a scout?
For this year, it's 10 years already.
Wow. Did you start as a cub?
Yes.
Now what has kept, how old are you?
18.
18. What has kept you involved in this group for the past 10 years?
Well, for the most part, most of the activities I enjoy the outdoors for the most part. Also, the community involvement that comes along with just being a scout. And more so with being a venture as well, because we get to plan our own activities and decide where we're going to do our activities, or what we will do our community service, or to whom we'll do it to. So it gives us more of that sense of responsibility to figure out what we're going to do, who we're going to help, and just help to shape us into future leaders, to just guide the others that are coming along as well.
Now, what has being a scout, or how has being a scout helped you as a young man moving into adulthood?
For me, it has taught me a lot of values. For the most part, respect for my adults. It has also taught me to not to just judge people by just how they look, to just always try and look for a friend in them, and just to always look for the good in people.
All right. Now, I'm sure this is wonderful to hear, especially Bernedito going from Cub Scout up to Venture Scout at this point in time. And you have quite a number of scouts who have stayed with the program once they started. So you know that they enjoy it because all the competing attractions that young people have, they decide to stick it out with the association. What are some of the reasons that you, as leaders, in your work with the Scouts, what do you think is part of the motivation that keeps them involved? Is it simply having access to outdoor activities that most people wouldn't have? Is it the building of values that is important, or the interactions with other like-minded persons? What would you say are some of the reasons?
I think it's a variety of reasons. But the main one is the activities-based program.
Yeah.
I think it's very challenging, and I think every young person would like to, at some stage, receive an award.
Yeah.
And the challenge for them to work towards their awards is quite interesting. And the satisfaction that we have in seeing young people like Bernedito coming up through the ranks and eventually becoming a leader, that is what keeps us motivated and working towards our goals.
Yeah. Now let's take a look back on some of your major achievements for the year. The 100 years for this Cub Scouts is one, but what are some of the other significant achievements that you've made for this year?
This year we were pretty lucky to have the support of Boy Scouts of Canada, and they sent a group of about 12 young people, just like almost the age of Bernedito. And they organized a course for us for young people called a leadership course. And it was quite successful. It was for 3 days at Camp Oakley. And we had over 40 participants, 40 young people taking part in that course. In addition to that, they did a community project for us at camp by refurbishing one of our main buildings at their own expense. The Scouts in Canada raised the funds to come and do that for us. In other words, they funded the training course, and they also funded the repairs of that building.
The other meaningful one that we had was a female empowerment workshop. Female empowering workshop, which took place in February at the end of Scout Month. And we had the participation of females ages 4 and above. They participated in learning skills, leadership skills, communication skills, relationship skills, and it was offered for the female from the Scout Association, the young women, and also girl guides participated in that workshop.
Okay.
That was really meaningful.
Now, one of the things that we find that young people are naturally quite attracted to in terms of the generation that they are growing up in is technology. And I know I've had conversations with representatives of the Scouts Association in terms of learning to keep up or to balance both your technology input, how much you spread your message there, and still maintaining some of the true cores of what Scouting is in Belize. Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, we'll take that to Bernedito because he
smiled when I started talking about it, right?
For technology, well, for my group, we use technology most of the time. During our meetings, we would have it just either to do a quick, either have video chat with one of our leaders or some friend from across the world, just to have them in tune with what we're doing, or if they're planning an event to come to us as well, so we could be in communication, so that we could set up everything for them. So if they need housing, we could help them as well. Also, just for our taking of our minutes, just to make sure we have everything documented. But also, we don't only focus on technology being the main part of the meeting, because if we just do that, we will all stay on our phones every meeting.
That's right.
So we have our policy that we have to stay off our phones for the meeting, or for every event it has to be off or in your bag, and you can't touch it until the night or after the meeting. So you have to be a participant to the events or the meeting, just to get your phone back as a reward.
So there's a balance to it,
Yeah.
right? You're still utilizing the technology that people your age like to use, but you're still going ahead with having that human interaction,
Yes.
right?
Another thing that we had this year was virtual meetings with scouts from abroad. So that was something new for us this year, and we plan to continue doing that in the coming year as well.
Yeah. Now, what would you say is some of the challenges that you face? I know you mentioned funding, and funding is fundamental in being able to execute your activities. But are there other areas where you find challenges that the organization has had to adapt, or perhaps find new solutions to as the years have gone by?
Well, we recently had our strategic development plan, and we identified several issues that are affecting us. Going back to the role of leadership and the involvement of young people. We started 3 years ago training 2 young people every year in the month of December. We send them abroad to participate in what is called the Inter-American Leadership Course. And it's particularly for venture scouts between the ages of 16 to 28. And we have been consistent in sending 2 participants to these courses. This year, I think after the 26th, I think we have 2 participants leaving the country to go to Guatemala to do the course. This year it's in Guatemala. Interestingly as well, one of our first participants at that course is now serving as a staff member at these courses. So whilst the challenge exists to find leaders, we believe that we are on the right track, because the vision is that these young leaders that we are training will eventually take up the role of leading the association, coming up with new ideas. As we, the older people, start to fade out, the young people take over with brand new ideas that will be able to solve the current situations that we face. But the challenges, like for us, one of our big challenges right now is not having a headquarters. We are in a cramped up office space at the old set building. We have plans to build our own headquarters eventually, if we can secure the funding. So that is a challenge in itself.
Because you used to be at the Civic Center.
Right, we used to be at the Civic Center. We have a staff of 3 full-time people, and all the rest are all volunteers. So we work along with them. And Marilyn, for example, she's a great volunteer. I have to give her credit for that. She spends, I think, most of her free time with Scouts. And these are the type of leaders that we really appreciate.
And I think that's one of the things that when people see adults involved in the Scout movement, they think it's a employee.
Right.
But really and truly, this is a full-time commitment outside of your full-time commitments. And what is it about being involved with the Scouts keeps you so committed?
Just being with the children. The first thing I look for, I'm thinking, I always tell people, if I decide to stop scouting, we'll have more children on the streets. And this is a way to keep them off the streets, get them involved, getting them to see the worth of themselves, the values, instill values, you know, quite in a disciplined kind of setting, so that they can be service to the community instead of hindrance.
That's right.
I was a volunteer leader for 10 years, and my satisfaction really was to see the young people grow up and being responsible.
Yeah.
Like Benedicto, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't say it, but I know it because I visited Camp Oakley several times. It's fun.
It is.
And, I think people look at you in your uniform or they see you marching and they don't know the amount of fun that you have when you go on camp. Now, it's rustic and you learn a number of skills that perhaps you would have never been able to learn. Benedicto, tell us about that part. Tell us about, obviously being a scout has discipline. You set out goals for yourself. You have quite a number of badges there that you're wearing. I'm sure you worked hard for them. But it's also fun, right?
Yeah, it is fun. For the most part, what I spent years practicing mostly was pioneering, which is knots, and gadget building. So most of the times when we have camps, my group would come to me and ask me, what can we build? Or someone would come and, what can we build?
Yeah.
Or how can we build it? That's what I take more pride in doing because that's what I know best. In that aspect, I would say that the kids would have a lot of fun because we could build towers, we could build bridges, we could build picnic tables, and you have that satisfaction of saying that I built that and I could sit at it and use it, or climb it, play on it, and it won't fall down.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. If you take well. Also, with the games, we don't only stay with just we're going on a hike or just doing a run. We'd have swimming, water polo.
Mud.
Yes, mud as well.
Mud,
the
yes.
kids enjoy the mud. Also, the hikes, they enjoy the hikes, but we try to mix it up most of the times because having a day hike wouldn't just be fun if you could do it every time. Sometimes we'd try and do a night hike, not far because it would get lost, but just something that they would experience something different, seeing the stars at night, just walking through the woods, having no communication, no light, just walking. And that they enjoy it because when we come back, they always say we want to go again.
Yeah.
And they just enjoy that aspect of just having that view of the night sky, the open wilderness, just being there away from civilization, away from the noise. Because I know most of them don't have that sense of just being in the open air in the city. Some that are in the villages have that, but in the city we don't have that as much.
Yeah.
So they enjoy it when they go out there.
Tell me about the badge that you worked the hardest for.
The badge I worked the hardest for would be my pioneering badge. So far I've gotten to stage 3, which would be the highest one. That one I spent the better part of 2 or 3 years working on that.
Wow.
The athletic badge as well, which came a little bit naturally because my family is mostly athletic people, so it wasn't that hard, but I still spent a lot of time working on it because I wanted to give it more of a challenge to myself to gain it.
Yeah.
Those were the 2 badges that I really worked hard for.
But maybe you could tell us a little bit about the athletics because you all went to participate in a race in Cancun. And
As scouts.
yes, as scouts,
As
right?
ventures, we had a venture race along with the Mexican Association. The race, well, it wasn't a race, it was just a marathon. It was
To raise funds.
Yes, to raise funds for the refugee children across the world, to help them to get a family or to help them just to survive for the next day. Give them food, give them clothing. The race was 24 hours. So we had to keep running for 24 hours in intervals. We had a group of 5. And each person had to run 10 laps around an Olympic track and then switch over to the other person. It had to be repeated until the 24 hours were finished.
Wow, that sounds grueling.
And you all came in?
We came back with 3rd from that event.
Nice.
The driver that took us there, he joined, since he was the odd one out, he joined along with a group from Chetomal and won first with them. So,
Oops, you should have kept him on your team.
yeah. But the entire experience was a great one.
Yeah.
We had the chance both to go to Cancun, help people out, and even though we came back with crazy cramps, it was a fun time. We got to spend it together as one big scouting family and just get to know our brothers in Mexico better, because all the time, a whole day spending in one stadium, you have to talk to someone. So.
Now, you know, I love that he has spoken, and that's why I got into the badges portion, because you mentioned it just slightly for a bit, Hilberto, and it is about how important it is that young people, children and young adults, learn to work towards particular goals. And that's one of the things from Cub Scout right up to Venture Scout that is integral to this program. And perhaps we don't highlight it enough.
Right.
But what that teaches you, even as an adult, that if you want a badge, you got to work to meet all the criteria and then be able to wear it proudly. How do you influence them to be able to push harder to either upgrade their badge or to earn a new one? And I know even as leaders, you guys have to do that as well.
Yesterday, some of my Cub Scouts, they were to receive their gardener's badge. We did a lot of activities leading up to that. One of them was visiting the nursery, because they have to know about plants before they decided to do their own planting and see it grow. They also they started their cooking, but we went first to Cambranes Bakery to see the process of cooking, and they were welcoming enough to our Cub Scouts, even though there were a lot of them. But they had fun time. They allowed them to bake as well, to knead, prepare some of the different kind of breads there. And
because that's one of the badges they have to earn,
yes.
the cooking one.
So
right?
that's one, and they went back because I got calls from parents that said, oh no, they want to try it and I have to allow them, you know. And they sent me a picture of it. They said, oh, she did it. She did her own design because she learned something at Cambranes Bakery. So they going and participating in different events leading up to the badge attainment makes them want to go and say, what can we do next? So they want something next to do, new things. Sometimes they see the scouts doing activities that they want to know, can we do that? And I said, no, it's not your turn as yet. You got to wait until you
like
cross over.
And for you? I see you're wearing quite, and those are what, not badges?
These are awards, basically.
Awards.
For service. We normally give awards for service, and we start off after 5 years of good service, not just being a leader, but you have to provide good service. And then after 10 years, you get your second award, and after 15 years, you get your third award, and it just progresses after that. But the highest award that we have is the Silver Wolf, which only about 8 people have it in the country so far. Wow. But that's the exclusive award of the Chief Scout for service of the most exceptional nature.
Nice.
And I'm sure that Miss Mar is heading in that direction right now. Very exceptional leader.
You know, the impact of having programs like these, and you know, Scouting has been around for so long. You celebrated
100 years.
100 years. Was it last year?
2011.
Okay, wow. Okay, that was a long time ago.
Yes, it is.
5 years already. But you know, I can remember the Scouts when I was younger. Of course, at that time, girls weren't allowed to be Scouts. How much have you seen girls being more involved in the Scouting movement at this point?
I think we are about 50%.
Nice.
Yeah, 50-50 right now.
Nice. And is it more difficult to retain the girls or the boys?
Boys.
The boys,
yes.
That's what I thought. Now, how do you work with the young men in the Scouts to be able to keep them involved like Bernedito, but also when we talk about the unique challenges facing young men, especially in the more urban areas where we see them being recruited for criminal activity, how do you work with them to keep them engaged in your program, which is far more beneficial to them than being out where they can possibly be recruited for illicit activity?
Okay, as Bernedito said, that our venture program is self-governed. The young people do their own planning. They have their own leaders. They select their own committee. That is one of the key responsibilities that we give them. We give them enough responsibilities so that they feel that they are achieving something.
Yeah.
It is very important that young people be given responsibilities. It's not like having them there and then we are telling them what to do. They work on their own plans. They work on their own training program. They schedule their own training, how fast they can progress in each area. And although sometimes I know it's a challenge for them because they have school as well to do, and sometimes they don't have enough time to dedicate to scouting, but I think that the leadership skills that they learn in scouting is so valuable to them that I believe that is one of the key essential things that keeps them in scouting.
So what do you say to other young people, Bernedito, about why they should get involved with the Scouts movement?
To get involved with the Scout movement, for the fact that you won't be in trouble most of the time. That's one of the main things you could say about it. You won't be in trouble. You won't have to be looking over your shoulder, saying someone would be following you, things like that. You would always have someone on the street to talk to because you would always have a friend there. You would always meet new people, even if it's someone that you've met for the first time or just one time in your life. You would always remember them because of something that they said or something that you did to them. You would always remember them and always have someone there to just say hi to or just say good morning or have them say good morning back, and just have that satisfaction of having someone just giving you the time of the day, and having a chance to spend time with youths your age as well.
Yeah.
Without saying that you would go out to clubs or things like that. You would just say we'll have a meeting or we'll just have a get together at one house, watch a movie, or just go to visit another group, help them out, or help as one of the leaders like Miss Marilyn to help them out as well, because we work along with her as well. We work along with the association.
Yeah.
We work with them with the association in camps. We are the staff of the camp.
Yes.
So we cook for the scouts, the cubs. We cook for ourselves as well, even though we don't want to eat after we finish. But we still have to eat to keep our strength up, to keep up with the children.
I can imagine.
Because they can keep a very active lifestyle.
That's right. So let's talk about the needs of the Scout Association. You always need volunteers. How do people get involved? People who want to be leaders, people who want to support. I know you're trying to build your headquarters. And for parents who are looking and really want their children to get involved with Scouts.
In terms of leadership, any adult person over the age of 18 can really become a leader.
Okay.
All they need to do is to have the interest in wanting to volunteer, and they can contact us, and we can give them all the training that is needed for them to be effective leaders and work along with the young people.
What's the level of commitment one has to?
2 hours a week, basically, to run their meetings, and maybe attending other training, like on weekends when it's required. We have our training courses are basically in 3 sections. We have an information course where you come to the first course and you learn what scouting is all about. Then you do a basic course teaching you the skills to manage your group. And the third part is basically the practical, where you come and learn the practical skills of what we do in Scouts. So it's quite simple, but it's that commitment. You have to have that commitment for weekends to take the Scouts hiking, camping, training. And
if someone is interested in supporting the organization and the work that you do, They reach out to you at the headquarters?
They can reach us at the Scout office, yes. Our telephone number is 223-7216, or email us at scouts@btl.net.
All right, great. And lastly, for parents who are interested in having their children involved in the Cub Scouts or the Scouts, where do they find a troop that's nearby?
Well, we have St. Ignatius. He comes from St. Ignatius Scout Group. Myself from Ebenezer on Barak Road. We have Wesley Cub Scouts. We have St. Martin's, St. Luke, and Sun Hill. We have one at Baragum.
All right.
Yes. But there are others in the other districts.
That's right.
Yes, like the Jaguar Scouts in San Ignacio. And we have Mary Hill in Corozal, and Corozal Methodist also.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining me this morning and sharing a bit about what you've been able to achieve just in this year. And we hope that we can get more persons committing themselves to get involved with the association.
Be sure to.
All right.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, it's to check out gift items or gift ideas courtesy of Becky's Gift Shop. So stay tuned.